Good morning. This is Dylan Jovine with Behind the Markets. Happy Tuesday. Tonight is Tuesday, February 17th, and I'd like you to take out a pen, mark your calendar. Thursday, the 19th, this Thursday at 1 o'clock, we're going to be having a webinar and talking about the next movement along the energy story. And it's really, really interesting here. We were very early to the AI energy story. You've heard me say this 1,000 times, basically. Every tech revolution is at root also an energy revolution. And you think about steamboats, you think about railroads, using coal, massive amounts of coal to get across the country, really driving up massive amounts of coal production. You think of cars, what made Rockefeller the richest man in the world? It wasn't really just oil for candlelights, which is what he started selling. It was oil and gasoline for machines. And, just took off. As car use took off, so did his wealth. And we're in a similar situation where we're entering now this really interesting new phase. The story has moved along and it has changed in the past year. So for a while, it was all about, we all know it's about build data centers, build data centers, build data centers. We all know that. The problem is what you're getting into is a place where there are data centers, beautiful data centers that are built, but they can't plug them in anywhere. So they're just sitting there with all these fancy chips and all these fancy computers and hardware. They can't do anything. The grid can't handle the energy needs of these data centers. Again, a problem that we've talked about. And just to give you some idea of how big the problem is getting now, a standard data center consumes about as much energy as 100,000 households. Bigger data centers can use a lot more than that. Meta, I have some notes here. Meta's building a massive data center in Louisiana, which is projected to consume more power than the entire city of New Orleans. And, there are stories like that everywhere. Google, Elon Musk's new data center, the Colossus, is just doing it. When you think about these data centers being built en masse, because, according to insiders, basically, we're going to need 5,400 new data centers in the next 4 years. Now, Morgan Stanley came out with a report recently. It said, look, this data center build-out is going to come to a screeching halt if we can't get energy to these data centers in time. Again, you could build the greatest data center in the world. If you can't plug it in anywhere, it has zero use. So, they're being finished. They just can't handle electricity. So that has created a massive bottleneck in AI fuel, basically. Now, just to pull the camera back, under normal circumstances, the US government would say, nah, you know what? We'll create products, we'll create timelines, we'll do budgeting, we'll come out with a plan where you can work with local governments to build out your AI and to tap into the power grid. Maybe we'll create tax breaks so that local energy companies can actually help you build these things. That would be a normal standard operation. And instead of building out in 4 years, you build out in 10 and 15 years. Here's a problem with that. Normal rules don't apply right now, and that's because of China. If you think about NVIDIA, NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang says that China might win the AI race for one reason and one reason only. They have energy. They have nuclear power plants. So that's problem number one. We are racing. We're running a race, a marathon, a speed race against a country that already has the fuel infrastructure in place. So we've got to move. So the other thing is, so this is a matter actually of national security, okay? So there's no doubt about it. Now, the other thing is that we've seen a lot of political pushback from citizens saying, I don't want my electric bill to double because, Meta or Tesla needs a data center power, but screw that. No way. Absolutely not. You're going to crush American citizens. So how do you solve for that? It's created a very, very interesting thing. Well, the president has written executive orders and he's about to release another one. That's why we're having this webinar February 19th. Another one is expected to come in the next week to two. February 24th is the tentative date. But basically, Trump is allowing these companies to bypass basically the electric grid completely and build their own power plants. And Musk is doing it, Google's doing it, everybody's doing it. They can't basically just tap into citizens' electricity. There's not capacity there, and it would just send rates of all of us soaring, doubling. It's crazy. So they're building their own power plants. This $7 trillion crunch, where you have massive demand and not enough supply, has created an opportunity for us to take advantage of. And we're going to be walking you through that opportunity on Thursday at 1 o'clock. I hope you join us. This is the most interesting story that hasn't been told completely yet. Again, we've talked about AI energy, we've talked about data centers, we've talked about nuclear, but right now we're reaching this inflection point where, it's about to pop. And I think there are some amazing opportunities in that. That's where I like to be. Anyway, that's all I have. Have a wonderful Tuesday. I'll see you tomorrow.